Get everybody in. And Shannon, you can put us on the record
Ready?
now. Okay, good morning. This is the matter of Dominic Toll. And let's see, I know, why don't we just have each of you identify yourselves for the record?
Good morning, Your Honor. Matthew Hotchkiss on behalf of Devin Lemble, the father.
Morning, Your Honor. Caitlin Kinder on behalf of the Department of Health and Human Services.
Rebecca McCluskey for Samantha Toll.
Ivan Brown, LGAL.
Kimberly Erickson, foster care caseworker.
LaToya Huntington, Ingham County, CPS.
Scott Norkey, DHHS supervisor.
Okay, and I see Samantha Toll is here, and I don't know who is at this 762 number. Could you identify yourself?
Devin Lemble.
Okay, I figured that, but. All right, is there anything preliminary, Mr. Way?
I didn't hear Mr. Way check in.
Oh, he's here. Is he muted?
We see your lips moving. He's not muted, but.
Can you hear me now?
All right.
All right,
morning,
Matt
Mr.
Way,
Way.
prosecutor's office. I have nothing.
Anything? Very well. Call your first witness.
I would call LaToya Huntington, Your Honor.
Ms. Huntington, I'll ask you to raise your right hand, please. You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please spell your full name.
LaToya, L-I-T-O-Y-A, Huntington, Huntington.
Go ahead, Mr. Way.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Huntington, how are you employed?
I work for Ingham County MDHHS as a CPS ongoing worker.
And what is your role as an ongoing worker?
I service families to prevent them from coming back to CPS.
Okay, is it necessary for a case to be opened prior to you becoming involved as an ongoing worker?
Yes.
Okay. Through that, through your employment, through that role, are you familiar with Devin Lemble?
Yes, he was the boyfriend to one of my ongoing cases.
Okay. And what were the issues that were being addressed through your case?
There was a domestic violence incident, and that was what was being addressed.
As a result of your case being open, did you make referrals to services to address those issues?
Yes, I made a referral to Families Together Building Solutions, FTBS.
And what were they going to address?
They were going to address the domestic violence between Mr. Lemble and his girlfriend.
Okay, and I believe you said or you implied that your case was, I guess, directly related to Mr. Lemble's girlfriend. Is that a fair statement?
Correct. Yes.
Were the services you were offering also available to Mr. Lemble?
Yes.
Did you make Mr. Lemble aware of that?
Yeah. He was made aware prior to my case, and I discussed it with him as well.
Did he take advantage of any of those services?
He did not.
Did you speak to him regarding the concerns about domestic violence?
I only encountered Mr. Limble twice, and he was hidden out of the house for work.
I'm sorry, he was what?
He was leaving the house for work.
I have nothing further for Ms. Huntington, Your Honor.
Mr. Way, can I get a time frame on when this occurred?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Ms. Huntington, when did your case open?
I would say I became involved. Give me 1 second. I can try to look it up.
Ms. Huntington, the petition indicates that the allegations came in around October 3rd of 2019. Does that sound about right for when the initial allegations came in?
Yes, but I didn't become involved till after that.
Okay, so are we talking early 2020 that your case would have been open?
Yes, about late January, early February, I believe.
Okay. Do you recall how long the case was open?
I closed back in July, and most of that was just an appointment, setting up an appointment for the mother.
Okay, but services would have been available from January or February through July?
Correct.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Mr. Hotchkiss, do you have questions for the witness?
Just a few brief questions, Your Honor, if I may. Ms. Huntington, you stated that you made my client, Mr. Limble, aware that he was to participate in the FTBS services. Is that correct?
Correct. I believe the first encounter, I discussed services with him and his girlfriend.
And when you spoke with him, that was in person, correct?
Yes, briefly.
Did you ever give him any sort of written indication via email, paper, any form of communication indicating that he had to participate in those services?
I did not.
Okay. And you said you spoke with him on 2 occasions, correct?
Yes.
And on both of
So
those
I
occasions,
spoke with him. Sorry.
go ahead. No, please go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, I spoke with him briefly for 2 occasions.
Okay. And on both of those occasions, you said he was leaving for work, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, in regards to my client, did you ever state then in person that he was to participate in these services, or that they were mandatory or required in any form?
I did not, but a family team meeting was held prior to me letting both him and his girlfriend know they were to participate in services.
But you did not attend that meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Any questions, Ms. McCluskey?
No questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
Yes, Ms. Huntington, I am just wondering, this allegation of domestic violence, did this have anything to do with Samantha Toll and the mother of Dominic Toll?
No, it does not.
Okay, and was the domestic violence supposed to have occurred with Mr. Lemble and his current girlfriend?
Yes.
Were there any police reports derived from this alleged domestic violence or anything of that nature?
I did not have any police report.
How did you determine that? Can you give us any facts about what this alleged domestic violence was supposed to be between the two and when it occurred and what it was? Any information on that?
The investigator investigated the domestic violence, and they found a preponderance of evidence between the interviews of the children and their follow-up. I did not investigate the case.
Okay. Any facts that you can give to the court about what allegedly happened?
I would have to look in the investigation. I just serviced them after the case is open. I did not do the investigation.
I realize that, but to service, it would seem as though you would know what the allegations are that required servicing, but you don't know, correct?
One of the children stated that Mr. Limble allegedly pushed his mom into a browsing. That must have been enough for the investigator to open the case.
Okay. Did you ever interview Mr. Lemble to say whether he denied this or this was true or false?
I did not interview Mr. Limble regarding that.
Okay. Did his girlfriend, what is his girlfriend's name?
Stephanie Hitchcock.
Okay. Did she admit that there was domestic violence in their relationship?
She denied domestic violence to me.
Okay. Thank you, Judge. Nothing further.
Any redirect, Mr. Way?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further testimony, Mr. Way?
Yes, Your Honor. I would call Samantha Toll.
Ms. Toll, would you raise your right hand, please? You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your full name and then spell it, please. You can put your hand down.
Samantha Toll, SAMANTHATOLLE.
Go ahead, Mr. Way.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Toll, you are the mother of Dominic Toll, born August 20th of 2019, is that correct?
Yes,
And you and Devin Lemble signed an affidavit of parentage, making Devin the legal father of Dominic, correct?
yes,
At the time this petition was filed, was Dominic found here in Jackson County?
yes.
The petition indicates that you reported previous domestic violence with Devin. When did that occur at?
It occurred over our entire relationship when we were together.
Okay. And how long were you together?
We were together for about 2 years.
When did you break up with Mr. Lemble?
I broke up with him. When I was about 3 months pregnant.
Okay, so that would have been in April or May of 2019. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. Yes.
You said domestic violence happened throughout your relationship. Can you tell us what you mean by that?
Over quite a few occurrences when Devin would get mad at me or upset about something, he was physically abusive and emotionally abusive. And those actions occurred up to when I was pregnant. And the night before I decided to leave, Devin was physically abusive towards me while I was pregnant. And that is ultimately what told me that enough was enough and that it was time for me to leave for good.
When he was physically abusive to you while you were pregnant, what did he do?
He held me down on his bed and he hit me in the face repeatedly and bit me in the face until I was throwing up all day. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Take your time. Did you ever make a police report regarding this?
No, I didn't. But when I was pregnant, I was working at a gas station in Stockbridge, and while I was at work, Devin and I were arguing over something, and it was over text. He showed up at my work, made me get in his car, yelled at me, and then pushed me out of his vehicle. And while he was leaving, he hit one of the maintenance guy's trucks, and there was a police report on that.
And so we received the police report on that, Miss Toll. Do you recall, you told the police that day that nothing physical happened. Do you recall that?
Yeah, I do.
And was that an unusual occurrence for you to deny that there was domestic violence going on during your relationship?
I would tell the people that I was close to, but I didn't want to get Devin in trouble because in my mind state, I still cared about him. And I knew that it was very wrong. But I was so blinded by how low and sad I was feeling. I just wanted to protect him. And now I realize that was wrong.
You said he was physically abusive on multiple occasions. What can you describe another one of the occasions where he was physically abusive towards you?
Yeah,
Take your time.
During the summer, him and I went on a vacation with his family to Kentucky on a houseboat. And one of the nights, Devin got so mad at me, he started choking me really hard. I had a canvas, there's wood in the back of the canvases. He broke one and he broke a slab of it off that was sharp and he held it into my neck. And while he was choking me, he was doing that. And I had to beg him to stop because I thought he was going to kill me.
Anyone else in the area that would have seen that occur?
No, we were in a room alone.
Was that typical of when physical violence would occur between yourself and Devin, that no one else would be around? Is that a yes?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. You also indicated that he was emotionally abusive. Can you tell us how he was emotionally abusive towards you?
He would call me names. He would yell at me and tell me to kill myself. He would He would make me feel bad about myself.
Ms. Toll, when this, either the physical or emotional abuse was happening, was it ever driven by any sort of substance use?
No,
Either okay,
he would do it
Um,
completely sober.
okay. Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing further. Samantha, a couple of the other attorneys might have some questions for you, okay?
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Questions, Mr. Hotchkiss?
Very briefly, Your Honor. Ms. Toll, you stated that you never filed a police report regarding any of Mr. Limbo's alleged actions. Is that true?
Yes,
Did you ever file for any personal protection orders against Mr. Limbo?
I did.
You did. And when did you file for one of those, Ms. I'm sorry, Ms. Toll?
Right after I had my son.
Okay. And was that PPO granted?
Yes.
Okay. And what were the allegations in that personal protection order that you used?
Some of the domestic violence occurrences that happened between us.
Okay. What was the date of that trip to Kentucky that you took on the houseboat?
I'll have to go through and look at the dates.
Was it this summer? Was it last summer? Was it 2 summers ago? When do you think that was?
About 2 summers ago when we were together, probably.
So about 2 years ago. Okay. And do you have an approximation of when's the last time that Mr. Lemble did anything in terms of physical abuse?
The night before I left him when I was 3 months pregnant with Dominic.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Toll. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Any questions, Ms. McCluskey,
No questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
Yes, Ms. Toll, from your emotional testimony here today, I get the feeling that you realize that abuse in the home is not a good thing, correct?
Correct.
And I get the impression that now you believe that you should have reported some of these instances of domestic violence. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
But you did so because you cared and loved Mr. Lemble, correct?
Correct.
How did you come to that realization? When did you come to that realization that you should have reported it and you were doing him no favors by not reporting the domestic violence? Was it after this occurred or before?
It was before. I knew it was wrong, but I felt like I had, when you go through so much emotional and physical abuse, you start to lose sense of yourself. And it makes you feel like you almost deserve it. And
Okay.
you can't do better in life than that.
Okay.
Because he would tell me he did it because he loved me.
You pled no contest to this petition, correct?
Correct.
And if you knew, how do you explain all these injuries to your child? The bruises on his abdomen, 3 bruises to his chest, bruises on his flank, multiple scab wounds over his back,
I would have,
bruised achy eye and posterior aspect. If you think abuse is so bad perpetrated on you, can you explain any of these abuses.
I've got to
into-
object before my client answers. My client's not on trial here. She's already pled, we've adjudicated.
Yeah, but she doesn't get to pick and choose what she answers.
Mr. Brown, the questions have to be relevant. How are these questions relevant to the case against Mr. Limble?
I think they're relevant with regard to credibility.
I have concerns that she entered a no contest plea and we're asking specific questions about, I think that creates even more issues, I think.
Yeah, but when you take the stand and you're called to the stand, she can certain things. She has not asserted them yet. So I think that's a fair question for me to ask. You just don't get to pick and choose when you get on the stand what questions you feel like answering, which ones you don't.
I would restate my objection and that it's not relevant. There's nothing to do with Mr. Limble.
So what Mr. Brown is arguing is that it's relevant to her credibility in the testimony she's offering here. And what I'm trying to understand is how her having no explanation for the injuries to her child is relevant to whether or to her credibility in the testimony that's offered here. Can you help me, Mr. Brown?
Yes, whether she's lying with regard to Mr. Limble or whether she isn't. This child received some injuries somehow. She can't explain them away, no medical reason for them. I think definitely it goes to credibility. Is she lying now, or was she lying then when she couldn't give the child protection team an answer to the reasons why her child was so brutally injured?
She's not the only caregiver for that child.
I'm afraid, Mr. Brown, it's just too big a stretch for me to see how her inability to explain injuries on her child's back bears on the credibility of her testimony here today. I'm going to sustain the objection.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nothing further.
Any redirect, Mr. Way?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Any further presentation, Mr. Way?
No, Your Honor, that completes my presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Hotchkiss, do you have any witnesses today?
I have no presentation today, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. McCluskey?
No presentation. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Brown?
No presentation, Judge.
All right, that concludes the testimony. Mr. Way, I guess we're ready for arguments.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask that the court adjudicate. I think Ms. Toll's testimony is very compelling. She, her emotion seems very genuine to me, although the court is certainly the ultimate trier of fact. What struck me was not just that, but that how well she described the dynamics of domestic violence. That's not something I don't think you can fake. That's something that you learn from being in an abusive relationship. We couple that, her allegations, her testimony, with the fact that Mr. Limble was offered services, and whether or not the domestic violence incident with his girlfriend occurred. I didn't get into that. Found it a little bit because it's hearsay. But Ms. Toll provides, who Mr. Limble is. He's a domestic abuser, and he was offered 6 months worth of services to address those. up until 2 months ago, while this case has been pending. So this isn't something that, although her allegations are maybe a year or more old, there was a more recent allegation. The bottom line is somebody who has committed that sort of physical and emotional abuse for years on end is not going to stop, is not going to get better unless they're serviced, unless they account for what they've done, take responsibility, and learn not to do that again. It's not something you just decide to do on your own. And given that, and I would note too that the domestic violence occurred even when she was pregnant. So although the child may not have been present during that, the fact that she was pregnant while some physical violence occurred is extremely troubling to me. Given all of that, Your Honor, I do believe that it's been shown by a preponderance that Mr. Lumble's home or environment is an unfit place for Dominic to live, and I would ask that the court adjudicate. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hotchkiss?
Yes, Your Honor. I'd like the court to keep in mind that all of these domestic violence incidents are nothing more than allegations, because there have been absolutely no police reports attached as an exhibit or provided, because there simply are no police reports. There's been no indication that these incidents have occurred. We're taking people at their word that they've occurred. We heard from Ms. Huntington, and per her testimony, there was a discussion perhaps with Mr. Lemble regarding the FTBS services, but wasn't provided anything in writing, wasn't provided any statement saying that he needed to participate in those services. Again, there was no police report regarding that incident. And again, I'm referring to Stephanie in this case, his current girlfriend. There's been nothing provided that states that a domestic incident occurred other than the worker saying she thinks that something occurred. She stated that it was minimized. Well, the girlfriend of my client says it never occurred. She says nothing occurred. There was no domestic violence. So we have absolutely nothing to indicate that there's been any occurrence of domestic violence with his current girlfriend. Now, when we look at the testimony of Ms. Toll, I would echo concerns about that testimony, because on the one hand, she says, oh, I was in love with Mr. Lemble, and because of that love, I could never file a police report. I could never do anything at the time. I could never stand on my own 2 feet, and I was so blinded by that love. And then on the other hand, we have her potentially saying something different. I don't believe that she's credible. I don't know what that means when she says she loves someone and what she's willing to do. Maybe she could hate someone so much that she's willing to lie in order to be vindictive towards them. That sort of emotional reaction or emotional testimony may be a double-edged sword, Your Honor. So I don't know if there's any credibility there. The court can assess credibility as it wants, but again, there's been no police reports, no incidents of domestic violence that have been reported. So there's nothing to go on other than her testimony today. There's been no indication that my client has been provided those services other than, again, testimony here today. Nothing tangible, nothing definitive whatsoever, nothing to suggest that his home is inappropriate other than allegations of domestic violence that may have occurred, may or may not have occurred with a girlfriend from 2 years ago. And again, nothing concrete there. So the only thing holding my client back, who is the legal father of Dominic, from being able to have placement and being able to assert all the responsibilities of fatherhood here, is an allegation based on nothing tangible that something may or may not have occurred. Based upon that and based upon the weak nature of the case, I don't think that the agency's met its burden of proof whatsoever in this matter. And I believe that my client should therefore have placement.
Thank you.
Thank
Ms.
you, Your Honor.
McCluskey?
I have no statements, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
Judge, if Ms. Toll is to be believed, then Mr. Lemble is a monster, and domestic abusers of women are moral and physical cowards, and you should take jurisdiction. The problem I'm having is these allegations are 2 years old. I do have my concerns if they are true. If we are to believe them, then you should take jurisdiction, and Dominic should not be in his custody. Thank you very much.
Anything further, Mr. Way?
Just a couple things, Your Honor. Mr. Hotchkiss referenced no police reports or as exhibits or something like that. That would obviously be hearsay. He mentioned that the current girlfriend denies any domestic violence. Well, that to me is not at all compelling, especially given what we know about domestic violence and what Ms. Toll testified. There's a reason that the domestic violence victims do not disclose abuse. When it comes to credibility, I guess I don't understand how we can question Ms. Toll's credibility, because I heard nothing on cross-examination that really called her credibility into question. What I would point out is that Mr. Lemble, this isn't a criminal proceeding. Mr. Lemble has every right in this proceeding to testify, to say this did not happen. These are lies. This is why these are lies. He did not do that. And in this proceeding, the court can make an inference that he did not take the stand because he had something to hide. And I would ask that the court do make that inference, and I think come to the only conclusion that it can, and is that Ms. Toll's testimony is credible and that the court should adjudicate. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Lemble, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I noticed that you disappeared from the hearing a couple of times, and I let you back in. I just wanted to make sure that you can hear me now.
Yes, I can. Just a few problems with the service.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so what the court has in front of it is the unrebutted testimony of Samantha Toll that over the course of a 2-year relationship with Mr. Lemble, he was both emotionally and physically abusive to her. Frankly, I found her testimony to be very credible and to be very compelling. What she described is, in fact, classic victim behavior in a relationship in which there is a batterer involved. What she described as the behavior of Mr. Lemble is a classic batterer. It's a character trait. It's a whatever you want to call it, a deficiency in his makeup, that somehow he has got to have power and control over this woman, and he exerts that power and control both physically and emotionally. This is not a situation where a person lost his temper and on one occasion inflicted harm on a loved one. This is the behavior of someone who routinely relates to that kind of behavior. Now, when I put that in context, if all I had regarding the incident with Mr. Lemble's current girlfriend, if all I had in the record was that incident, it would be very hard for me to draw a conclusion that Mr. Lemble is a batterer. However, when I couple that with Ms. Toll's very compelling, believable testimony, it provides even further evidence that any woman that Mr. Limble is with is going to experience the same kind of behavior. The fact that there was a CPS investigation that was substantiated, involving domestic violence with the current girlfriend. I mean, the fact that the girlfriend denied it, again, that's classic victim behavior. The batterer seeks out women who he can victimize. And that's what's been described to me here. I am going to adjudicate. I find that based upon this compelling testimony that Mr. Limble's home, by reason of his inflicting domestic violence upon his partner, whoever that partner happens to be at the time, is an unfit place in which this child would live. I'm going to schedule this matter, unless we're prepared to do disposition today. Are we, Mr. Way?
I believe Ms. Erickson is prepared with recommendations if Mr. Hotchkiss is okay with doing it today.
Mr. Hotchkiss, do you have any objection to going forward? You certainly will have a chance to speak to the recommendations for disposition.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Erickson. What do you recommend for disposition in this matter as pertains to Mr. Limble?
Yes, Your Honor. I recommend that Devin Limble participate in supervised parenting. Devin Limble participate in parenting classes. Devin Limble participate in.
She's going to have to speak it up.
All right, you're breaking up, Ms. Erickson. Let's start over.
Yes, I apologize. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I recommend, or DHS recommends that Devin Limble participate in supervised parenting time. Devin Limble participate in parenting classes. Devin Limble participate in anger management services. Devin Limble participate in a psychological assessment and follow recommendations. And Devin Limble maintain communication with the foster care caseworker and other case participants.
Mr. Hotchkiss, do you have any objections to these recommendations?
No objections, Your Honor.
They indeed appear appropriate to me. I would certainly, following the psychological evaluation, depending on what its outcome is, I don't know if anger management fully encompasses domestic violence counseling. If it does, well, then that's adequate. If not, what we have here is more than just anger management. What we have is behavior that's indicative of a batterer, and that requires a very specific kind of intervention to make sure Mr. Limble understands the dynamics of this and hopefully is able to change his behavior.
Absolutely, Your Honor.
Okay, we will set this matter then. I'm sure we're scheduled for a review hearing already as it pertains to mom.
November 3rd at 9:30.
Okay, November 3rd at 9:30, that'll remain our review hearing date. Anything else the court needs to address today?
No, Judge.
No, Your Honor.
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, may I
Thank
add,
you very,
sorry.
hold on a minute. Looks like we lost Mr. Limble again. I see him back in the waiting room. All right, Mr. Limble, you're back.
Your Honor, may
Yes.
I add, just from today's testimony and from the court interaction, may I also add appropriate interaction between Sam and Devin, just for the sake of, I don't want to.
Ms. Erickson, you're breaking up very badly. I was not able to understand anything you said. Let's try again.
Sorry, Your Honor. Could I also add appropriate interaction between Devin and Sam, just for the sake of the testimony today? And I don't want to, I'm nervous to see any anger or backlash towards Ms. Toll. So could I also just ask that be addressed?
Appropriate interactions with whom?
Between Sam and Devin, just for the sake of Dominic, that there not be any repercussion towards Sam from the testimony today, between her and Devin.
Certainly, I would expect appropriate interactions between Mr. Lemble and anyone involved in this case, and we can include that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you all. We'll see you in November. Have a good day.
Thank you, Your Honor.
October.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.